What's coming up as the main theme, energies, circumstances for Leo in the month of June 2025. Interesting how this one has come out crossing as well, and it just flicked up behind a mask. So Leo, you may be going through the process of maybe releasing an identity, right? An image or a persona, right? So you may be deconstructing elements or aspects about yourself that you're realizing aren't really you, right? These are just facets and mechanisms and tools, right? That you have developed, created, cultivated to help you navigate certain situations, timelines, environments, connections. But you may be coming to the realization that actually some of these mechanisms, some of these masks, right, projections are no longer necessary, because where you're headed, you won't need to do that. Okay, so for June, I feel like you're deconstructing those things, right? And seeing what perhaps you can surrender, what you don't need to wear, what you don't need to project, what you don't need to mask. So I feel like you're starting to tap into your true, authentic expression, right? But these are early days. If you resonate with this, this is early days, okay? So it's going to feel awkward and clumsy and uncomfortable, especially when you feel like, oh, maybe I was a little bit too honest or a little bit too outspoken, right? Maybe I haven't found that sweet spot yet between conveying my truth and not just saying what comes to mind, right? So, but don't worry, right? I don't think you're going to be out here trying to like just hurt people's feelings, but you may, you know, find that it's a little bit clunky in the beginning, right? Because you're operating in a way you've never done before. You're getting acquainted with your energy to an extent that perhaps you've never experienced before. So it's always a little bit clunky in the beginning, you know? And that's fine. But the point is that you're allowing yourself to show up authentically, right? And not feel like, oh, I have to hide this aspect of myself because I'll be judged or people won't understand or because people have this image of me or these expectations. No, I feel like you're actually surrendering a lot of that now, okay? And I get it, you know, it's like I use myself as an example. I used to be very conscious of the fact, you know, that I would stumble over my words or I'd like get my words mixed up. And I was worried that people would find me incoherent or think I don't know what I'm talking about. But then I realized, like, that's nonsense, you know? The reality is, like, yes, I have neurodivergence, but that's not all there is to me, right? I don't see it as a negative thing at all, but it's not all I am, right? That's just a trait, if you want to put it that way. It's just a way of processing. So I didn't let that stop me from expressing what I need to express and showing up the way I need to show up, you know, and feel like I have to filter or, you know, really curate the way I'm expressing myself. No, I just express how I need to express. So that may be something, you know, that you start to do more of as well. But again, it may be a little bit tricky in the beginning, finding that sweet spot between being authentic and just saying what you really feel, compared to maybe just expressing like intrusive thoughts, you know what I mean? Things of that nature, but you'll figure it out. You'll definitely get it. All right, tell me more. Okay, so you have the 8 of Pentacles. Very nice. So you have been diligently working on yourself, right? Doing the inner work, okay? Cultivating positive habits, positive patterns, okay? Maybe reinforcing the things that you feel like are working for you, and maybe just fine-tuning some things that you feel like need a little bit of work, okay? But I definitely feel like this is testament to all of the inner work that you've been doing, okay? And how serious and dedicated you have been to this path, which is amazing. Yeah, 7 of Pentacles in reverse. I feel like you're no longer, I feel like this is about you. I don't even feel like this is anything outside itself, right? The things that perhaps you were once really critical of, that you feel like wasn't really of benefit, or you feel like wasn't in alignment with I don't know, maybe something you want to experience. So if we use an example like, oh, you know, people who operate in this job, right? If it's something tangible like that, especially with Pentacles, oh, people who have this role that I want don't act that way, or don't talk this way, or don't look like me, right? So there may have been some kind of limiting belief where you felt like, oh, because I'm like this, or have that, or I do this, I can't do this, or have this, or be this, right? Because I don't fit the mold. Whereas now you're saying, screw the mold, right? Now you're saying, screw the mold. Maybe that's exactly what is needed. Maybe it needs a shake-up. Maybe it needs new energy. Maybe it needs a different take, right? A different approach. Someone who has a different perspective when it comes to resolving a problem here. So I definitely feel like you're flipping the script on its head for sure, right? Two of Swords in reverse. You're no longer confused. You're no longer doubtful. You're no longer unsure, especially, right? So you know that the solution lies in you shedding everything that isn't really who you are and leaning into your authenticity rather than working against it and layering all of these masks, right? Developing all these personas that you feel like are expected of you, or what people want to witness, or what people expect to witness, right? Instead, you're like, no, if that's what's expected in that environment or that situation or occupation, then perhaps that needs to be challenged. Maybe the status quo needs to be challenged instead, or these generalizations, right? So this is awesome. And one more for Leo. Oh, yeah, Four of Cups in reverse. So I feel like for you, there's definitely been a shift in energy when it comes to how you perceive yourself, right? And what you think you're allowed to experience, or where you belong, or, you know, how life should be. Because obviously this is going to show up in different areas, right? But the reality is, you are saying, listen, all along I thought I was the problem, that I wasn't enough, or I had to change, or I had to, you know, mask and adapt and bend and mold, and when in reality it's nonsense. What I need to do is shed everything that isn't really me and show up in my true likeness, right? And even though it may be challenging in some areas, right, to show up in this way, to be able to show up in certain environments or circumstances, connections, whatever the case may be, because I'm not expected there, or because I will stand out in some shape or form. Like, instead of feeling like, oh, I don't belong there, or I need to be this way, I need to be that way, you're like, actually no, because I do work on myself, but I have a lot of good traits, good qualities, and I deserve to be in this space. I deserve to experience this. I deserve to give this a try. You know what I mean? Whatever this is for you. Okay? So I feel like you're no longer in the energy of disappointed, that you feel like you don't belong, or you're different, or that you're supposed to be a certain way, or there's certain generalizations or stereotypes or expectations. I feel like you're throwing all of that out the window. I don't think you care what people expect. I think what you care now is what you actually want, and going for it regardless of whether or not it's going to be a challenge. So good for you. That's awesome energy, Leo. So I definitely feel like you are meant to break a mold here in some capacity, right? You are supposed to break the mold, not reinforce it, and that's what you're doing. Amazing. So awesome energy, guys. I hope that does help, and definitely give you further encouragement to continue, right? To continue shining your authentic light and being who you are, and not feel like you have to conform, that you have to mask, that you have to blend in, because I feel like what is actually needed is your authentic light, for you to show up as you really are, rather than trying to conform and fall in line with everyone else. Okay? So I hope that does help. Amazing.